Welcome back, everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. We had a commenter on one of our videos, Leonardo, I might have remembered that wrong, but one way or another, wonderful to get the comment, asking for book recommendations related to investing. And certainly I want to encourage you, if there's any type of content that you would like to see, please put that in the comments below. Please comment on our videos. We try and read all of the comments, and we will try and create something that matches for you. Anyway, today I'm going to discuss with you 5 and maybe 6, depending on how you want to consider one a book or not, recommendations for somebody who's interested in learning about investing that they can go to and get a great idea about how to invest better. So we're going to dive in today. Before we do, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, hit the all notification bell. If you would like help with international optimization solutions, this is for yourself personally or for your business, how to optimize to pay the lowest legal amount of tax possible, how to go to places where maybe your quality of life is better, maybe it's going to meet your goals in some other way, give you some sort of a plan B, some backup. We help you figure out what is the best solution for you, as well as implement it. Everything from doing huge detailed reports and analysis on complex business situations involving companies all over the world that take weeks to compile and optimize, to figuring out how to get you the right residency and actually going through getting you that residency or citizenship that you are looking for. So please reach out to us. You can book a call with me, calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer. There's a link in the description below, or you can send a message through offshorecitizen.net. All right. So getting started with investing. I don't think that it should be too surprising for anyone who has delved into the investing path very much to have my first recommendation being essentially the books of Ben Graham. Ben Graham is one of the mentors of Warren Buffett. He famously wrote, along with Frank Dodds, a book called Securities Analysis. Now this is like the big, thick, complex to read one, but a really excellent one. It was kind of the original treatise on value investing, which forms one of the only, I would say, really consistently successful frameworks for investing. So that's one. And the other one that goes along with it, which I'm bunching together, is The Intelligent Investor. So Securities Analysis is a heavier read. If you're just getting started, it might be nicer for you to read The Intelligent Investor. So by all means, go and pick that up. But if you want to really get into the details of it, definitely read Securities Analysis. Very, very big deal. And just as a little tip, Warren Buffett recommends a couple parts in particular, but one is the section on margin of safety. Margin of safety, what Ben Graham says, is if you were to sum up all the investing wisdom in the world, you could reduce it down to these 3 words, which is margin of safety. So very, very important to pay attention to that principle. Now, from there, we'll go to the next Buffett mentor, we'll say, or at least person that he learned quite a bit from, which is Phil Fisher. So while Ben Graham pioneered the concept of value investing, Phil Fisher arguably pioneered the concept of growth investing. Now, growth investing is, in my opinion, both growth and value in the markets are just totally bastardized terms. The media, what they say really means nothing. How it gets labeled by banks, etc., means nothing. Loosely speaking, value investing is about buying something for a substantial discount from the intrinsic value. Growth investing is about buying something which is going to grow at a rate much higher than the market. And so his most famous book, actually it's technically a compilation of 2 books, but it would be what I would recommend, is called Common Stocks, Uncommon Profits. So that's by Phil Fisher, and definitely worth reading. And that really kind of the main point, again, that Buffett has mentioned in this is the idea of durable competitive advantage and what a significant role that plays. The other one that's maybe really interesting in there is the concept of scuttlebutting, which is something that very few people are willing to do, and that probably reflects in their results. So both worth checking out. The third book I would recommend is from a fantastic investor called Howard Marks. You can go, he runs Oak Tree Capital, and you can read his memos. He puts them out every month or 2, something like that. I usually subscribe and used to read them religiously. I haven't read them as religiously anymore. But Howard Marks is just filled with really solid investing wisdom. And so he wrote a book called The Most Important Thing. Very easy read, filled with just really basic, solid fundamentals that you can get through and understand a great context for making investment decisions that I think is definitely worth understanding. So that would be kind of another one. Another book that I would consider checking out is a book called Warren Buffett and the Interpretation of Financial Statements. So this is probably not on most people's investing reading list, but actually for me it was one of the ones that I most enjoyed. They essentially take the three key financial statements: balance sheet, profit and loss, or income statement, and cash flow statement, and they go through line by line and look at how does Warren Buffett think about those things, what matters there. And for me, it really changed some of my perceptions around what a good company is. Prior to reading that book, I would have thought a company doing a lot of R&D was a good company. And for Warren Buffett, it's a bad company. Not because of the fact that R&D is bad, but because if you have a high R&D expense, it shows that you don't have a lot of durability to your competitive advantage. And therefore, you're forced to spend a lot more in order to stay ahead, which means that there's less value returned to shareholders. And if you think about, for example, right now, Meta, formerly Facebook's stock, has just been clobbered, totally crushed, down to nearly a $250 billion market cap. So last I checked, I think it was 264 billion or something, down from like about $1 trillion. So they've lost something like $700 billion in market cap. And they're highly criticized. And one of the questions you can ask is, well, why is that? And it turns out they're spending right now on R&D in developing their metaverse stuff is about 10 times a larger share of revenue than Google's is in their R&D. And obviously, Google's doing a bunch of R&D spend as well. So very disproportionate, and that's money that may never return to shareholders, et cetera. So yeah, definitely worth reading this book, Warren Buffett and the Interpretation of Financial Statements, just to get a sense. I find very few people who invest actually have a really good sense of reading financial statements, and that's fundamentally problematic because finance is the language of business and investing. And if you don't know what these things mean, you're probably going to make some bad decisions eventually. So that's that. This brings us to number 5, which is not really a book, but is probably one of the greatest sources to read. And this is just read all of Warren Buffett's letters to the shareholders. So every year you can go to the Berkshire Hataway website and you can go and get his letters to the shareholders. They go back to the 60s or whatever. There's a lot of them. And he usually, it's probably about 100 pages or so. Now, there's a lot of different things that are going to be in there. But you can definitely get a ton of wisdom. It's like an MBA in a box that's 100 times better than a normal MBA for somebody who wants to invest and understand business, et cetera. This is somebody who's spent his entire life gleaning every little advantage he can, a little piece of understanding, and it's just, frankly, quite helpful. So that, I think, would be also a really great resource. The 6th one, which actually is a book, is a little bit different, but I think has a couple key insights in it. And this is the book 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. 0 to 1 is, about a very particular set of kind of contrarian beliefs that Peter Thiel has. And I found it useful for 2 different points that you can pull out of it. The first one is the importance of monopolies. Very, very key. He defines different types of monopolies and plays around with some of this, but it's a pretty easy to read book, pretty quick. And that's really, really important if you want to get kind of maximal long-term returns. It's sort of, I would say, the next development of durable competitive advantage. The second thing that he talks a lot about, which I think is really important, is the sizing of positions across a portfolio and the upside in those positions in order to make it work worthwhile. This is quite different because it comes from a more angel investor, venture capital type perspective, so more power law investing, but on the other hand, still is filled with some great insights. So those would be 6 books to get you started. There's, a gazillion books on investing, but I think if you read those, you will get a really solid starting point, foundation, and then you can add on whatever else. It's also probably worth watching the really excellent Ray Dalio video, How the Economic Machine Works, to get some concept of cycles. Howard Marks has another book that he wrote specifically about cycles, so that's something you could kind of add on if you like Howard Marks. And then Ray Dalio has written, some other books that are maybe worth checking into. But hopefully those are some great recommendations. If you have some recommendations, please put them in the comments below. Would love to hear what they are. and I will look forward to seeing you on the next video.